Ready for a deep dive. Today we're tackling global economics, but get this, we're using food as our guide.
You heard right. We're going to explore those surprising links between things you'd never think went together, like how a love of noodles could explain a global car company's success.
Okay, now you've got me really curious. So lay it on us. What's on the menu for this deep dive?
Our main ingredient today is the work of Ha-Joon Chang,
Cambridge Economist.
the one and only. He's got this unique way of looking at how the world works, uses cuisine to make sense of global economic trends. And honestly, it's way more interesting than it sounds.
All right, I'm all ears. Hit me with Chang's take.
So what's fascinating is he takes something everybody knows, food, and uses it to explain these really complex economic forces.
Okay, I like where this is going. Familiar territory to dive into the complex stuff.
Exactly.
So where do we begin?
Let's rewind to the 1970s. Imagine someone tells you this tiny car repair shop in South Korea, like really small time, is going to one day outproduce, get this, General Motors.
You'd think they were, I don't know, some kind of fortune teller. No way, right?
Sounds unbelievable, but that's Hyundai's story. And Chang tells us it all starts with, you guessed it, noodles.
Noodles. Serious.
It's serious.
Okay, now I am officially intrigued. Though I am suddenly craving ramen. But all right, back to this noodle theory.
Both South Korea and Italy, they're noodle-obsessed cultures. But here's the catch. South Koreans, they love their noodles, don't get me wrong, but they don't have a ton of different shapes. Italians, on the other hand, over 200 pasta shapes. Everything from spaghetti to farfalle, you name it.
200. See, now those names, that's impressive. But what's that got to do with Hyundai taking on, well, giants of the auto industry?
Well, Chang uses this whole noodle thing to tell a story about this guy, Giorgetto Giugiaro, the Italian car designer. He designed Hyundai's first car, the Pony.
The Pony.
And get this, before he designed cars, he tried to design a new pasta shape.
Wow, talk about a career swerve. So did his pasta shape become like the next big thing?
Not even close. It wouldn't cook evenly, which, let's be real, kind of a deal breaker in the pasta world.
Yeah, that's a non-starter.
Right. But lucky for Hyundai, his car design skills, those were spot on.
Okay, but even with a great design, going from tiny repair shop to major player, that's a huge GE leap. Got to be more to it.
Oh, absolutely. It's way more than just one brilliant person or a single design. One of the biggest things Chang points out is government support, specifically infant industry protection.
Infant industry protection. For those of us who don't speak fluent Economist, what is that?
Basically, it means new industries, especially in developing countries, sometimes they need a little help getting started. You know, they need some breathing room from global competition early on. Think of like a seedling that needs a greenhouse before you plant it outside. Gets protection and support while it's still vulnerable.
Oh, I like that, the greenhouse analogy. So how'd this play out for Hyundai? Did they get a greenhouse?
In a way, yeah. The South Korean government, they use things like import bans, subsidies, all to protect the company while it was still finding its feet. Gave them the space to develop, improve, and then eventually they could compete on a global scale.
So not a one-man show, not even just a brilliant design. It was everything coming together and government playing a key role.
Exactly. And, you know, this challenges that whole story we hear all the time about economic success. The lone entrepreneur, the single genius, those things matter. But Chang's saying a lot of successful countries, they got there with government help, strategic help.
So it's not really a level playing field then, even in this world of free markets.
That's the thing. Chang argues that developed countries, they love to preach about free trade, open markets, but they forget their own history.
What do you mean?
It's like they climb to the top and then kick away the ladder, make it harder for anyone else to follow.
Kick away the ladder. That's a pretty powerful image. So you're saying once they're on top, they change the rules to stay there.
Exactly. And Chang says this kicking away the ladder thing, it's a pattern throughout history. Developed nations, they push for free markets now, but conveniently forget they used protectionism to get where they are.
Yeah.
It's like what we were saying about those assumptions, right? The Hyundai thing. That applies to whole countries too. Take Switzerland, for example.
Switzerland. Okay, yeah. Chocolate, watches, secret bank accounts, right? Well, what's Chang's take on them?
Well, think about it. When you hear Swiss made, what comes to mind?
Probably those fancy chocolate bars or those intricate watches.
Exactly. And Chang's point is, those images, yeah, they're part of it, but they kind of overshadow something else about the Swiss economy, something most people don't even realize: manufacturing.
Really? More to Switzerland than meets the eye. Like some secret economic truth behind the chocolate.
Yeah, we think of them as, I don't know, finance, tourism.
Hmm.
But Chang challenges that whole service-based economy idea.
So it's not all about banks and mountains then?
Not at all. In fact, to prove his point, he takes this detour through the history of chocolate itself. Did you know it started in Mesoamerica? The Aztecs drank it as this bitter drink, way before it was a candy bar.
No way. See, I learn something new every time. My whole image of Swiss chocolate is different now.
Right. And the point of that whole history is innovation. It's rarely just one person's doing, like milk chocolate. We think Switzerland, but it was a bunch of people over, like, centuries to get it right.
So not some lone Swiss dude having a chocolate epiphany.
Nope. It was innovations all along the way. And the Swiss, back in the late 1800s, they figured out how to mix the milk powder and cocoa just right to make it smooth and creamy. That's their contribution.
Okay, that ISS cool. But back to Switzerland's economy now. How does chocolate history play into that?
Chang uses it to debunk this myth about wealthy countries, the whole post-industrial world idea, that developed nations, they ditch manufacturing, become all about services. We hear that a lot, but Chang says it's an illusion and a dangerous one.
Hold on. So even though we think chocolate and banks, they're actually making stuff like crazy.
Big time. Switzerland has some of the highest manufacturing output per person in the world.
Wow, would not have guessed that. Okay, so why does it matter? If they make things but nobody knows, what's the big deal?
Because it changes how we think about progress, right? This shift towards service economies, Chang argues, it's not just what people want. It's about how tech changes production. As tech gets better, stuff's cheaper to make, you need fewer workers, so services naturally look bigger.
Makes sense. It's not that we stopped needing things, it's that we got better at making them, so we need fewer people for that. What's Chang's take on the countries that buy into the services or the future idea then?
He says places like the US, the UK, by going all in on that, they might have accidentally set themselves up for instability, like the 2008 crash, for example.
Oh, interesting. So too much focus on things like finance, not enough on actual making stuff.
Yeah, that's the argument. Chang's all about balance. You need a strong manufacturing base and a thriving service sector. Ignore one, you're in trouble.
Like putting all your eggs in one basket, right? If it goes down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A healthy economy needs variety. Got to fire on all cylinders, not just a few.
All right, so we've gone from noodles to chocolate, uncovering some pretty surprising stuff about the global economy along the way.
That's
Ready for one last mind-blowing course?
You bet. Get ready, because we're about to dig into the future of work. And Chang uses something you might not expect to explore it. Strawberries.
Strawberries. What do those have to do with the future of work?
Well, strawberries and automation.
Ah, automation, the topic that everyone's talking about and worrying about.
Exactly. And for good reason. It's been shaking things up for, what, centuries now? But with AI, robots, all that, it feels like we're on the edge of something even bigger.
Yeah, no doubt. So what's Chang's take on all this? Where do strawberries come in?
He starts by painting us a picture. Imagine a perfect, ripe strawberry, right? Juicy, ready to eat. Now, imagine you're the one picking them, hour after hour, for probably not that much money.
It's easy to forget the work that goes into the food we eat.
Exactly. And picking strawberries, that's hard work. They're delicate, hidden in the leaves. You got to be careful not to squish them. For a long time, this seemed like one of those jobs, Robots could never do it. It was too complex.
Things change, right? Technology marches on.
That's the thing. And Chang's using strawberry picking to represent this kind of final frontier for tech, especially in agriculture. If robots can pick strawberries, what can't they do? It's a big question, and people are definitely asking it.
Makes you wonder, if robots are taking those jobs, what are humans going to do?
Right. That's the worry. And Chang gets that. He says, look, automation's been messing with jobs forever. It's not new. Think Industrial Revolution, right? Machines replace textile workers. Huge upheaval back then, too.
So if this is nothing new, why are we freaking out now? What's different this time around?
Chang thinks part of it is those white-collar jobs, the ones that always seem safe. They're starting to feel the heat. AI's getting smarter by the minute. Things we thought only humans could do, like analyzing data, even writing. Well, robots are doing it.
Okay, so should we all just panic? Is a jobless future unavoidable at this point?
Not so fast. Chang actually offers some really optimistic views on all this.
Okay, good. Because some optimism would be very welcome right now. Give me some of that. What's Chang's take?
First, he says, look, new tech, it doesn't just wipe out whole job sectors overnight. It takes time. Think about washing machines. They were invented way back when, but it was decades before they were everywhere, and washerwoman wasn't really a job anymore.
That's a good point. We seem to always think tech will change everything instantly, but it's usually a much slower burn. What else does he say?
He argues that when automation makes things cheaper, which it often does, people actually buy more of it. Higher demand, which means more jobs, just maybe different ones.
Okay, I'm going to need an example for that one. How does that work in the real world?
Streaming services. As tech made it cheaper to watch movies, people started streaming like crazy. More demand for shows, which means more jobs for the people making them. Writers, actors, editors, you name it.
Oh, right, yeah, like a ripple effect. Cheaper production actually creates jobs, just maybe not the obvious ones. What's his third reason to be optimistic?
It might seem obvious, but we forget it. The jobs created by the tech itself. Someone's got to build these robots, right? Fix them, improve them. That's all jobs.
Right, those strawberry picking robots don't just appear out of thin air. Someone's designing them, writing code, putting them together.
Exactly. Automation's not happening in some lab somewhere. It creates a whole industry, a whole bunch of jobs, just to make it work.
It's like we get so caught up in what we might lose, we forget to look for what we might gain.
100%.
So I see Chang's point. By getting a handle on the history of all this, maybe we can face the future. Not with fear, but with, I don't know, open eyes and a plan.
That's it. And that goes for economics in general. Understanding history, challenging what we think we know, being open to different ideas, that's how we make sense of a world that's changing faster than ever.
That is a fantastic point to end on. So there you have it. From a simple bowl of noodles to the power of automation, we've covered a lot of ground today, all thanks to one question. What can food teach us about economics? The answer, as we've seen, is a whole lot more than you might think.
It's all about making those connections, the ones you'd never expect, challenging our assumptions and realizing that even something as everyday as a meal can give us a whole new perspective on how the world turns.
So next time you sit down to eat, whether it's a plate of pasta or, yeah, even a juicy strawberry, take a second to think about everything that went into it, the whole economic engine that makes that meal possible. Who knows, it might just spark a new thought, a question, or even just a little more appreciation for this crazy, complex world we live in.